Hey guys, this is Dominic from the Cosplay and thank you that you are here for this new video. If you don't already know me here on YouTube, then this is really normal since this is actually my second real YouTube video and I plan to make even more in future. But maybe you have already seen me on TikTok, Facebook or Instagram where I post since around 2.5 years regularly do-it-yourself and work-in-progress content about cosplay. And if you want to support me, all you have to do is following me and write a comment or a like on my videos so that other people can see of the algorithm as well my work too. And with that, I welcome you to our second video of our Kratos cosplay series. If you haven't already seen our first video of our Kratos cosplay, then you can click here, then you go to the first video. I showed how we made the shoulder and the breast armor of the whole Kratos costume. And in this video, I'm going to show you how we made Kratos' dagger, the little leather pouch and the huge leather bag of the belt. And for all the searing princesses and princes out there, please don't be too hard to me. I really made my best doing this. So if you have as well any tips how I could improve my searing skills, then I'm always happy to have new feedback and new ideas, so just let me know. And of course, I would never use my channel to make self-advertisement, you know. I would never tell you that I have a book about texture making. I would never tell you that I have an Etsy shop where I sell patterns and tutorials. And I would never tell you that you can learn with this book here how you can make your own cool textures for cosplay and simply don't buy it, simply don't. And with that, let's start the crafting process. We'll start with Kratos' dagger. First, I draw a blueprint of the knife to determine the correct size and get a closer look at the details, so I'm sure to have the right dimensions. Then I trace a template onto 5mm high-density EVA foam, which is harder than low-density foam and helps the shape hold up better later on. I do this for both the handle and the blade of the knife. In total, I make 3 layers of EVA foam to achieve the right thickness. For more rigidity, I place a flattened PVC pipe between the EVA foam layers to prevent it from being wobbly later. This is a great way to make your weapons more stable. I cut a rectangle into one of the layers of foam so the pipe can fit inside. For the glue, I use contact cement from Cosplay Shop. By the way, they are my sponsors for this project with the materials, so a big thank you to them. I apply now a thin layer of glue on each side of the foam. Let it dry for a few minutes and then stick the layers together. Then I glue the PVC pipe inside and close the structure with the final layer of foam, making sure to press everything firmly together so it stays in place. Our laser cutter comes into play again. It cuts the ornaments that can be seen on the knife. Here, on the handle, I insert the second PVC pipe to ensure that everything is solid there as well. The rest you already know by now. Just have fun watching. Now we move on to sanding. This is where I shape the knife and give the edges soft curves. Using a heat gun, I heat up small particles to smooth everything out, so it's nice and smooth. Now we make the sheets from fur leather, which we will later stretch over our foam base. I draw the template on the backside of the leather and cut out 2 identical pieces. Now I clip the 2 pieces together using sewing clips and stitch them together with a sewing machine. After that, I turn it inside out and the base is done. To highlight the handmade look, I hand stitch the ends of the sheets. This flattens them and makes it easier to work with later on. Finally, I can slide the sheets over the EVA foam base and hand stitch the sides at the top again to make sure everything stays in place nicely. It's already starting to take shape and looks pretty good. Now comes my favorite part, weathering and paint job. I give the dagger an old and worn look using natural toned acrylic paints and a sponge. Using ochre colored paint and a very fine brush, I go over the engraving to make it stand out more. You definitely need a steady hand for this and a lot of patience. Now I paint the handle with a dark orange color. By dabbing it with a sponge, I create a rough and uneven texture. Here, I glue the foam band onto the knife handle with super glue and wrap it around. Then, I add a few final highlights with a fine brush to give everything more depth and its finished touch. After gluing the two parts of the knife together, I add a thicker, aged-looking cord around the whole handle. It took me a few tries to make it look good and natural. And here is the finished dagger of Kratos. I think it looks pretty cool. Nice! Now let's make the small leather pouch. This is where it all comes together for me, as I've never seen something like this before. At first, I thought I was on the right track, but as I worked with the fabric, I quickly realized I was actually so wrong. I had to start over again, but that's part of the process too, being a cosplayer. And after a few hours of research, I actually found the right template and was finally able to get started correctly. Here, I draw the shape of the template onto the faux leather and cut it out. I do the same thing again to have two equally sized pieces. Now it's going to get a bit, well, illogical. Each side needs to be cut into 3 different parts, so that later these pieces can be, tada, sewn together back. Haha! Sometimes in cosplay you can't look for logic, you just do what you see, even if it doesn't always make sense. Now we give the faux leather an old and worn look. We do exactly the same thing here as we did with the dagger in the first part of the video, so you know how it's going. After the weathering part, I hand stitch the parts I just cut back together to give it a rustic look. Unfortunately, I forgot to record the first part, so here you can see the stitched sides. And by the way, this took forever. Now I draw some curved lines on the back side. Then I cut along them too. Did you guess it? Right, to sew them back together. The pouch is supposed to look like it's made from different fabric scraps stitched together, so this is a great technique to achieve that effect. And about 3 hours later, everything is hand stitched again. After that, I fold the top edge inwards by about 2 cm and glue it in place. I didn't want any stitches here, so I went with the glue instead. Don't judge me, okay? Now I can finally stitch the 2 sides with the machine together. Once this is finished, I turn it inside out and use a grommet tool to punch holes, all at the exact same height and distance. Through these holes, I thread a wire cord which allows the pouch to be opened and closed. To give the pouch a rounder shape and more volume, I stuff it with some newspaper. It's the only technique I could come up with, so let me know how you would do it. And here is the final result of our pouch. I think it's not too bad for a first try. Let's move on to the final part, the leather bag. For this, I used a pre-made template I found online and adjusted it to fit my design. I don't think I need to explain much here. You know the drill by now. Trace the template onto faux leather, cut it out, and done. At this point, I just want to ask you to not be too harsh. This is my first time making a bag like this, and I'm sure there are plenty of mistakes. As you can see, we need to stitch together 4 fabric pieces. Let's start with the flap. For this, I clip the 2 pieces together with fabric clips and sew them together with the sewing machine. As you already know by now, turn it inside out afterwards. I also reinforced the ends with an additional seam. So far, so good. Now it's getting a bit more difficult. I need to sew the long strip of fabric around the shape of the bag. I just want to emphasize that due to stress and overthinking, I nearly lost my hair over this. Joke by side, it really wasn't easy. For something like this, you definitely need patience. And of course, I had to do the same thing for the other side. I think we start getting pretty close to an actual bag here. What do you think? Since the sides of the bag felt a bit too wide and bulky to me, I stitched the ends together horizontally with a simple seam to give it a more refined look. Next, I need to make 2 leather straps on the back of the bag so I can attach it to a belt later on. I attach them using simple leather rivets. Not only does this give the straps a secure hold on the back, but it also looks pretty cool. Using Illustrator, I create a blueprint of the large button you see on the back, then engraved onto EVA foam with the laser cutter. To give the button a more rounded shape, I heat it up with the heat gun and press a dent into it with my finger. Now the bag also gets an old and worn out look. Just like with the dagger and the pouch, it's the same technique here, so just have fun watching the process. Using a thick needle, I stitch around the back flap with a white leather cord. I think this is for real the final touch the bag needs for getting an old and rustic style. I give the button its final touch using some silver rub and buff and attach a snap fastener to the back so it's actually functional. Lastly, we glue the silver foam button on top. The back still looked a bit too smooth for my taste. To give it some wrinkles, I heated it up with the heat gun and firmly grabbed the material so the folds would stay in place. And this is the final result of the bag. I am totally happy how it turned out. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And we are already at the end of this video. I hope that it was helpful, that you learned something, that maybe you laughed a bit if you are a professional zero and you just have eye pain from what I did here in this video. So I'm very sorry for this, but I hope it was funny to you as well. If you liked the video, please leave a like, a comment and a follow. This would help me a lot to grow on YouTube as well. And just to remember, don't forget to not buy my book, okay? But if you